of Screaming Alone, the last horror podcast you'll ever need to listen to, the Horror Nerd Experience. Join your host, LK the Horror Nerd, and Yanni the Hamburger, as they discuss all things horror. Thrills, screams, and enough jump scares to leave you looking like that kid from The Ring in the closet. So listen to the Horror Nerd Experience, another podcast brought to you by You Run Podcast Network. Welcome to the podcast.
I can't remember. I had up to that point, I'd never paid for a beat. You know, like as a rapper, I'm like, I'm dope. I'm so dope. Everyone should just want to give me a beat.
What up, everybody? Welcome to the You Gonna Eat That Crust podcast. I'm your host with the most on the ones and twos. You know they call me Shed Dancing. You know they call me Mount Crushmore. You know they call me Fatback Supreme. It's your boy, Ryan Wilson. And with me tonight, the mustard smuggler himself, the razor blade, the king of Connecticut, Seamus. Roger Seamus, what is good, my friend?
What's up, guys? Just excited for our guest. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. And also with us tonight, follically challenged himself, the sweatpants overlord. Ladies and gentlemen, Greg Hoey. Greg, how are you?
I'm doing well. I played a gig last night and somebody cheese whizzed my car. I went out after first set and there was fucking cheese whiz all over my car, and I went back on stage and I could not stop talking about who done it.
That's some like oily shit too. It's probably hard to wipe off.
Yeah, I had to hit the car wash at like 12:45, but I was looking for guilty faces in the crowd.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, big news. Very special guest. The pride of Rhode Island as far as I'm concerned. Little Houdini, stop Gandhi, you're killing him. Ladies and gentlemen, first time to the podcast, we got Sage Francis. Sage, how are you, my friend?
Good, and I'm also the new king of Connecticut.
Oh shit! You're dethroning me on my own show. Why'd you move?
I had to move for legal reasons.
Oh my God.
Shit, you guys are neighbors now.
That's cool as shit. I mean, yeah, if I got banned from Maine, what an honor that would be, I guess.
There's room in Connecticut.
Yeah, there is. Yeah. It's really
Can you talk about it, or is it personal, or is it still like ongoing?
No. Well, the thing was, once I met my wife, it was our living. She couldn't move to Rhode Island, so I had to move here.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So
now you're together.
Yes, now we live in Connecticut, not around any family or friends, and that's how we've been rocking since 2019.
Oh, shit.
What a time to be alive.
Well, what a place to live if you like pizza.
Yeah, man. Oh, man, the pizza's no joke around here. Every spot, like in our town, there's within like 5 minutes of us incredible pizza spots, and Domino's and Papa John's still exist out here, which is wild to me. But
in an emergency situation, late night, you know.
Yeah, trash pizza has its place sometimes.
So that's funny because that reminds me, like, I was just in Florida last week. We were in the Delray and West Palm area, and we came back to the room, and we had the munchies, and I was trying to find anything late night, and I tried this Marco's pizza. That order got delivered. And then I got Papa John's delivered. I think I ended up just like passing out. I didn't think they were coming. I thought they were getting canceled too. I just passed out. My buddy Ryan, who was in the room, I think I went to my bedroom. He's still up doing whatever. And I guess they came and were like knocking on the door forever. And he must not have heard it. I don't know. But we had I forgot we had like an outer door to the room. So like, so my brother Shane and his girl came the next morning. I started talking about it. I was like, is that why there's a pizza outside you're in the hallway?
Oh man.
I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, was there cheese sticks too? I was like, no cheese sticks. Somebody must have walked off with my motherfucking cheese sticks.
Although, yeah, the delivery guy earned those cheese sticks.
Right? That's exactly that was one of my thoughts.
All right, well, gentlemen, we're not here to talk about cheese sticks and pizza. Maybe a little bit.
We're not.
Seamus, can you tell us what we are here to talk about today?
Welcome back, crust lovers, carb enthusiasts, and those who simply tolerate our show. On this week's episode, we're not just serving up hot takes on leftover pizza. We're serving up a full-course meal of lyrical genius. That's right, folks. We've got the one, the only, the man who could turn a syllable into a philosophical debate, the poet herald of the underground, the enigmatic Zalzan, lyrical titan, word wizard, the man who could turn a grocery list to a spoken word masterpiece, Sage Francis. He's here to grace us with his presence and hopefully tell us if he's a crust eater or a crust disdainer. Sage, welcome to the You Gonna Eat That Crust podcast. Huge fans here. Thanks for taking the time to come on our show. How are you, man?
I'm good. This podcast really is about crust.
No, it's about everything. We're potpourri, man. We talk about everything.
Okay.
But we're
I'm game. I just
pizza aficionados. Back to the ever so important question. The masses want to know, or at least Greg is in some need of some validation. Do you fuck around with pineapple on your pizza?
Oh, absolutely. It has its place.
Yeah.
The acidity of it really brings out a lot of flavor in the pizza. Yes.
My man, Greg.
My
You're
man.
the only one.
Yo, I love pineapple on pizza. It's a shit.
I was actually banned from New Hampshire because I eat pineapple on my pizza.
They're too basic. But when I was a kid, we had a spot called Mezzaluna Pizza in Rhode Island, and they had an apple pizza, which was it was kind of like a dessert, really. So slices of apple with cinnamon and cheese. There was no sauce, and it was really delicious. And that kind of probably set me off onto other weird pizza toppings moving forward.
Well, what is your favorite topping or combination of toppings?
I don't really care about the toppings. It has to be cooked right, though. It has to have the crust on the bottom has to be not floppy. Has to have some crisp to it. And I just love the sauce cheese combo, and I like a lot of sauce. So,
sounds like you're gonna get down with the CT pizza then.
Yes.
You got that special dough with all the pollutants in the water. It must be what makes it so good.
Yeah. I'll throw a little dough, what do they do over here? Because we had a birthday party for one of our kids at a local pizzeria, and they taught all the kids how to make pizza. And they, one of the small things, but it seems like a big thing when I'm eating it, is when there's a little bit of dough on the bottom, like not doughy dough, like flour.
Oh, talking about like the cornmeal?
Yeah, cornmeal.
The cornmeal. Yeah, they put the cornmeal on the bottom. It got a little bit of flavor to it, I think.
Yeah.
It's actually it's called semolina, and they put it on the bottom of their wood paddles so it can slide off into the oven.
There we go.
Not that I work at a wood-fired pizza place or anything, but I do.
Well, like with all Italian food, it's not about a bunch of ingredients. It's about very few ingredients that are done perfectly,
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's all the combination. Like I said, you got that slight char and maybe a couple of bubbles on the crust, and the cheese has to be good. Obviously, sauce.
But as for toppings, I think something that I've loved for a long time is black olives with banana peppers.
Sage, my man, dude. Woo.
I like that, but I like if they have cherry peppers, I'll go with cherry peppers. But yeah, banana peppers are dope as well.
Kalamata olives is where it's at, gentlemen.
Oh, that's very fancy.
Yeah, man. It's the Daniel Day-Lewis of olives.
Yeah.
All right, Sage, we're going to kick it off. You came up in a time of recording on like Tascam 4 tracks and, slanging literal cassette tapes. Obviously, there's been a big change in how music is like recorded and consumed. So what do you think we've gained from that? And what have we lost in the meantime?
Concentration. We've lost ownership. We've lost we've gained convenience with that.
Absolutely.
That's nice, but there's definitely something missing that made it special back in the day. having to dedicate yourself to an album as a consumer. Like if you bought it, you really, you dove into that thing and you listened to it multiple times. And if you hated it, you'd make yourself love it somehow because
Well,
you didn't have a lot to choose from. So I'm glad we don't have to like love albums we hate anymore. But do we truly love any albums these days? I'm not sure. I'm not, and I'm not an average consumer, so I'm not sure how most people.
well, most of them, I think you're right because there's maybe a few banging tracks on them, but straight through, there's tracks that you tend to skip more nowadays. I think.
Yeah, just because there's an infinite number of songs you can listen to. Yeah.
To over content, same with all media.
And even if an album is incredible, how I hear about it, I see it be talked about online for a week at most. At most, people will talk about it. Like the new, the Kendrick Lamar album. I mean, it made noise for 2 days, and then I never heard anyone mention it again. It's a singles market these days. Like people will just talk about singles more than anything, and albums were a huge thing for my generation. Much more than singles.
Right. I mean, you could list all the tracks back in the day, and nowadays I think that gets lost, especially in the shuffle of your playlist. You don't even know the order of some albums sometimes, or
Yeah, and that sucks as someone who really puts a lot of effort into the order of songs on an album and how they all play off of each other and
right.
the balance and mix of an entire project. It's like newer listeners don't check for that, and I'm not even sure they're aware that's a thing.
Yeah, they could just shuffle your album and it's all over the place.
Yeah.
The convenience for sure. I mean, streaming for convenience is obviously great, but obviously the artists don't get much from the streaming services. And I think people have like a short attention span as well too nowadays. And just being able to like, have an album and you get the CD booklet or the cassette booklet, checking out the lyrics and the pictures. I mean, that was always cool for me as well growing up.
Yeah, I forgot to talk about that. I mean, there's a bit of a ritual involved when you get that tape or CD and you open it up and you get to peruse all the contributors and other random stuff that might be on there. De La Soul, De La Soul had the best fold-outs, and so did Public Enemy. Those,
Yeah.
or even Ice-T.
Tool.
Ice-T listed all his lyrics, and you know what? Run DMC didn't have shit. Run DMC put out the laziest inlays. Yeah.
I think we've lost, it was, I also used to record, 4-track cassettes and slang them at shows and stuff. I think we've lost the personal touches that kind of went with that. You get to have that conversation with somebody about the album or about your music, and you'd hand it off to them, and maybe you get that feedback eventually. And collaborating with people, or you'd have 5 dudes in a room all waiting for their turn on the microphone. I mean, we've lost that, but it also has made collaboration so much easier. I mean, it's so cool how easy it is to reach out to someone and bang out a track.
That's true. In fact, that's why that's what's kept Strange Famous Records going, because all of us who are involved live far away from one another, but we're continually working on music with each other. So that's pretty necessary for us to just stay active and be able to send out a link and an email of my vocals, and then switch things up quickly if I need to, and we can all record out of our homes. So there's a wonderful flow and freedom to that. I'm still slinging CDs and tapes at shows.
I was just gonna say
that's been the same for me. I can remember. In fact, where was I? I might have been out of the country, but somewhere where I was selling my CDRs that I burned and made myself, and with all handwritten lettering on the CD.
Collector's items.
I was selling it for $10, and this girl looked at me incredulously, and she was like, $10? You made it yourself. And I said, exactly. That's why I should be charging more for this.
Right.
Right. There's no middleman. This is going back to the person who's putting all the hard work into it. But yeah, they also don't understand how, what it takes to put that together, especially when you don't have a big giant record label backing you.
Yeah.
All right, Greg, what you got, baby?
Yeah, were there any specific childhood experiences or events that you think shaped your worldview or the themes that you often explored in your music?
Yeah, definitely. Oh, well, my family life, and I grew up with a stepdad, and my biological father kind of was in the picture a little bit, but he did some questionable things, and my I had to live with both families for a while, so I had to code switch, and I had to. Um, it just felt like I was living a double life, and act one way around them, act a different way around the other people, and watch what I say. Be very aware of the words I used, and that shaped me forever. That's just kind of been second nature to me ever since then, which I think has been important to my career and how I live my personal life versus my professional life. So, in an abstract way, that's probably had the biggest impact on me. That actually is reflective in my ongoing existence.
Nice.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Seamus, what you got?
Well, what kind of kid were you in school? Were you the class clown, the quiet observer, the outspoken one, or like something else entirely?
I was not the class clown. I never wanted to get in trouble, so I kept to myself. But I was the weird kid for sure, and I was in a practice. It was like an all white school for the most part, but I was deeply embedded in pro black hip hop, and I wanted to reflect that. So I would wear African garb to school. I would wear a kufi. I stuck out crazily, and I would have been bullied if I had not been a large kid. Um, and I also was in martial arts my entire childhood, so literally no one ever messed with me in school. And I was like the football captain and all that. So I was
Man,
I was I was doing all the like athletics and stuff. Academically, I wasn't doing great. I kind of slid by just by being able to use language to my
You're good with
advantage.
English, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so my English was great always, and that's thanks to my fifth grade teacher, Miss D'Antino, rest in peace. But she was a stickler for the English language and taught it very well.
That's good. Did you read a lot?
No, never. I
No?
never read. I felt like reading was just a chore, a task, homework, and I didn't even read for my homework. I didn't read. I didn't read recreationally until I was out of college. Until I was on my first tour. That's the first time I actually read a book for myself, just because to see if I could enjoy it. So,
what was the book?
well, the book I read while I was touring was On the Road with by Jack Kerouac.
Okay, yeah.
Because people kept talking about how me and the people I was working with reminded them of the Beat Poets, and I was like, all right, I want to check out what this is all about. Like, why do they think we're influenced by Beat Poets? But the other big book I read was It by Stephen King, which I truly loved. That's a monster of a book. That's so big.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an undertaking for someone who typically didn't read. You got to invest a lot of hours in that.
Yeah, I really don't know why I did that, but it's the last Stephen King book I ever read, and I'm sure to read more because.
Got to check out The Stand.
Yeah. That's what
great.
I've got. The Stand. Yeah, all right. Yeah.
Now, what'd you play for a position in football?
What position in football?
Yeah.
I played fullback on offense and I played middle linebacker on defense.
Hell yeah. I was a fullback myself.
I was like all state middle linebacker and trying to get a college scholarship for that, which almost happened. But I just gave up on it once I got into college. I didn't really want to. I went to the double sessions and after the first one, I'm throwing up and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna study.
Yeah, double sessions sucked.
Yeah,
I was a
they're the worst.
semi-pro football player, and I quit like every year in high school because of the double sessions, and then I came back. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, if double sessions is hardcore, I mean, I could have done it, but I also had I was paying for my own college, so I'm thinking to myself, how am I going to make this work out? I'm going to be tired all the time. I'm not going to I'm not going to be able to follow my studies. And because when I first went to college, I decided to really hit the books, not read them, but hit them, and um, get straight A's, which I did. And I think that was to prove to myself that I could, because I never really dedicated myself in school. I hated school deeply. And when I went to junior high and high school, I just hated the experience. I hated my surroundings. But when I went to college, I felt free. I was like, oh, now I'm in a group of people, some who I can identify with more. And that was very exciting for me, even though it was an incredibly boring town. And not much of a college life. But anyway, I did it. I made some really good friends the first couple of years.
80 saved your brain not playing football for too much
Yeah,
longer.
yeah. But even though I stopped in college, my joints are
I feel you.
hard. Both my shoulders are always in pain. My right elbow is always in pain. I get cortisone shots.
That's
and
funny,
my knees and everything.
That seems like it reflects your positions more. Like, because Greg, you were running back, so you're more in the
fullback.
knees, whereas he's using his hands and the shoulders more.
Yeah.
In his football career.
All right, Sage. So look, there used to be this dope college radio station, WUNH, and every Wednesday they played the show called The Mothership Connection. Now, listening to The Mothership Connection is how I ended up finding Atmosphere. And I'm not going to lie, Sage, I started going down a rabbit hole. I went on LimeWire. I started downloading any underground hip-hop I could find, all the Def Jux shit. And that eventually led me to your music. So, I mean, I know I suck. I downloaded it illegally. I'm gonna be paying for that for the rest of my life, obviously.
In hell.
So the very first line that I heard of yours that really stuck out to me was the I go to Fugazi shows requesting Minor Threat songs.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite lines. And I know you signed with Epitaph, which is like a punk label. How much of an inspiration outside of hip hop is like other genres of music or punk specifically?
Not until college. So I strictly listened to hip hop, nothing else. That was my identity.
Yeah.
Once I got into college, I also didn't drink or smoke, and I discovered the straight edge movement when I was in college, and that stemmed from the hardcore punk scene. So the straight edge kids were confused about me because I was living like them but didn't really know any of the music or their scenes, so they brought me to the hardcore shows, which I honestly didn't enjoy at first. I didn't really have an ear for it. I didn't really know how to process it, but what inspired me was seeing a crew of people all working together and putting out their own music, the independent style, the DIY nature of hardcore music and punk. It was a whole different world to me, because in hip hop, all I knew was major labels, and you're not official unless you've got plastic wrap over your CD or cassette. And but eventually I started getting more and more into it and really finding myself enjoying it after multiple listens. And but I wouldn't say I was deeply entrenched in the punk scene. I just was a observer, and I appreciated it. So those references fall into my music, but mostly it's my work ethic, and my overall ethos comes from the whole punk scene.
Fantastic. All right, Greg, what do you got?
Similar like Beastie Boys in a way, right?
Oh, and I was a hardcore Beasties fan. Hardcore. I was reluctant to listen to the first album. My mom, I think, got concerned that all this pro-black stuff, my mom was getting a little weirded out by it. So
Parents just don't understand.
Yeah. So she got me the License to Ill album on cassette for Easter one year, and she said, how about you listen to some white people? And so I was like, no, I'm not going to listen to this. I saw the video. They look like my uncle. Like this is not what I want. But eventually, I folded because I got bored. I put in the tape, and I still to this day hate heavy metal guitars, which are all over that album. But
Yeah.
I fell in love with that album so fucking much. And then I had to wait for the Paul's Boutique album to come out. And by the time that came out, a lot of the Beastie fandom, which was a fad for a lot of people
Yep.
in mainstream culture, they moved on to other stuff. And I never moved on. I was like, I need Beastie Boys. I need more of this. And Paul's Boutique came out, and it was so different from License to Ill that it turned off most of their fan base that they had from License to Ill. To me, as I was a strict hip hop head, I was ready for that. Like that still to this day is one of my most favorite hip hop albums ever. It's one of the most maturely produced albums in hip hop, and just how crazy and weird it is. It's like, that was right up my alley. I forgot how we got into the Beasties talk, but yeah.
Oh, just because they came from a big like punk upbringing, but obviously they were passionate about hip hop more,
Right. Yeah, and they got called out for being sellouts, by their punk homies. But
I mean, they hated that album as well too, License to Ill. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that Paul's Boutique is all like lifted samples.
That's what makes it awesome.
Yeah.
That's what makes it
never
so
been
good.
made again.
Have so many samples.
Yeah, nonstop layers of samples, impossible to clear. Yeah.
It was actually a big reason why sampling became the way it is now, is because there were so many uncleared samples on that album.
And why beats never were the same again. It's what I loved about hip hop went away.
Womp womp. All right, Greg, go ahead.
All right, so in 2003, I was painting with a company, Portsmouth, New Hampshire Painting Company, and I was riding into work with my boss, Dave, and he was like, hey, have you ever heard Sage Francis before? And I was like, no. And he showed me the Non-Profits album. Now, my question is there any chance of getting another Non-Profits album?
No. And no matter how many times I answer this, I'll always be asked it. I'm going to give you the answer I continually give, but I don't know why I give it, because no one will accept it. But that was a one-off album. Joe Beats, who I worked with on that album, became a problem. And I decided I'd never work with him again. And there's a reason you don't see a lot of Joe Beats albums out there, because no one else is able to work with him either.
Gotcha.
Another thing is the samples, just like we just talked about. All this stuff is sample based, and it's all very risky legally. But the bottom line is I never intended, even if I was cool with the dude, I never intended on doing another Non-Profits album, because that one, I dedicated myself to it in a way where I was like, I'm going to make, this is going to be my book report on the hip hop I loved growing up. So I fit in every reference that I could, and flipped all the styles that I wanted to as a big nod to hip hop. But some people have their whole career based on that kind of thing. And that wasn't for me. That was not my voice. It was fun to do, but not something I'd ever want to get locked into. So I moved on, and I could have done more with him, but due to a horrible business dealing, I regret making that album the way that we did with who we did it with, Lex Records. I felt like I got trapped into a contract that I can never get out of. And then it was his fault that when I finally figured out a way to get out of that contract, he wouldn't let it happen. And we all lost a lot of money for that decision. So yeah, it's a regret, like I live with that regret, but, and that anger and frustration, but the album is dope.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but the lyrics were amazing on it. I mean, it sounded great for the time. Like, we were all fans of that. It was a dope album.
I kind of had to make that sort of album at the time, because Personal Journals had come out, and it's left field, and it was a lot of hip hop fundamentalists were not into it and didn't really think I was didn't think I was the sort of person who should be breaking as many rules as I was on that album. So I thought like the Nonprofits album could be a way of letting them know that no, I'm actually from this scene and I know it very well and I love it a lot. So here's my, love letter, not a book report, but a love letter to hip hop.
Fantastic.
Now we got to go break all the rules. That's what we had to do.
All right, Seamus, go ahead, big guy.
You build a dedicated fan base over the years. What's the most memorable or funniest fan interaction you've ever had?
Oh,
or one of them?
I don't know. There's a billion things I could mention. I think one of the weirdest was, I don't know, because some fans became obsessive and like stalkish and like so when that happens, it gets creepy and you start to just distance yourself in a certain way from people being too familiar with you and who you are. But one guy, this was innocent enough. He was insinuating that we had the same father. Now I do have a lot of half siblings due to my biological father kind of being a Rolling Stone or whatever. But this dude was half black, and I didn't know how to break it to him that I'm not, like. That was just so strange to me. Like he was like really on it. He really thought we were half brothers, and I'm like, nah, I don't think so. I don't think we are.
It's so funny you mentioned that, Sage, because the real reason I brought you on this podcast today was to tell you that you and I are actually also half brothers.
Could be.
I'm sorry to bring it to you like this. I wanted to make it more personal, but this is the platform I have.
I have a half brother living in New Hampshire.
Oh shit.
Could be me. I'm in New Hampshire.
All right.
So, you've been an independent artist for a long time, and we've all had shit fuck up at shows. Like, I've had to rap over other people's beats because my beats got all fucked up or, something happened. What's the most MacGyver-esque thing you've ever had to do to make a show, a tour, or an album release happen?
Well, I could give you an hour-long answer. There's so many answers to this, but one of the most crazy was in, I think it was 2000. I was in Sweden. And I realized I forgot to bring all of my instrumentals for the show. So, like you're aware of, Napster and LimeWire were a thing. And I was like, yo, can we find those instrumentals on Napster? And the promoter, who was a kid, I think he was younger than me. We were all young, but they were up on the internet very early. And so they downloaded my instrumentals from the 12 inches that I put out, and I performed over those at the show. And it was like, I was ready to just give up. I was like, there's no way I can do the show. I don't have my beats.
Sounds like a big hustle by your crew.
Yeah. But a worse one, I would say, is the same, or not a worse one, but another workaround was when I was in Chicago playing a huge hip hop show with like lots of legends on it. I forgot my instrumentals. And I was, at the time I was traveling with a CD Walkman. I would play my beats off of a CD Walkman. And I freaked out, but then I was like, you know what? I'm going to do a spoken word performance at this hip hop show. Tell the crowd it's very special. I'm going to record it for an album release. And then, just to get them on board, because the crowd is there to hear like battle rap and punchline rap. They're not here to see Sage Francis do his flowery poetry shit. But I did. I got away with it, and the crowd loved it. And like people mention it to this day. I have the recording. It was not a dope performance, but somehow I got over. Yeah.
Well, you, as long as you interact with the crowd correctly and make them happy.
Mm-hmm.
So you talk about Chicago. Well, how do you feel about Chicago pizza deep dish?
I love it. I mean, eating it there is incredible. I've had whack versions of it, just like anything, anything can be made poorly, but when you eat it at a Chicago pizzeria, I guess, there's always the argument that it's not really pizza. It's sort of like a tomato pie. And
like a lasagna.
yeah, it's a tomato pie. It's a
Yeah.
tomato paste pie. I don't know, but I love it. It's yummy.
Absolutely. A little bit heavy on the carbs, but.
All right, Greg, what you got?
So you had kind of touched upon that Paul's Boutique was one of your favorites. Do you have an actual favorite hip hop album of all time?
The top 3 is Paul's Boutique, Balloon Mind State by De La Soul,
Nice.
and It Takes a Nation by Public Enemy.
Hell yeah. Sick. Yeah.
And all of those albums, the production on it is insane. It's just layers of stuff that work together. And I've always wanted to do an album like that. But again, with sample laws being crazy now and sample detection technology being supreme at this point, it's frustrating that I'm still going to try to do it. I'm still going to try to do something like, oh, you know what? Like working with Buck 65, he's doing that now. Like I'm working off beats that he's doing that all are very layered with lots of samples. And when we do something like that, we are admitting to ourselves, this is just going to be sold on Bandcamp.
Yeah.
Or like this is not something we could put on the streaming services. This is not something that we can get into stores. We're going to make it because we love this kind of music and sell directly to fans as long as we can.
Right.
Yeah, man, that David Bowie sample that you did there is, God, I fucking love that song.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. That was fun. That was to this day when that song comes on the radio, I'm just rapping my whole song.
Now, I know it's like, choosing your favorite kid, but like, what's your favorite album by yourself? Do you have a favorite or do you?
I really don't. No, I really don't.
Or most proud of? What you would say you're like most proud of?
I guess I'm probably most proud of Personal Journals just because it was my first and I was so brand new to the industry and the circumstances surrounding it were, I just was like, I was the biggest underdog in it. I came out on top with it. And to follow that up with the Hope album, the Nonprofits album, but then the next solo album is A Healthy Distrust on Epitaph. So that was the biggest selling album and probably the best sounding album. But Personal Journals was raw and more of risk in a lot of ways. So, but it's not a favorite. Every album I made, there's a lot of experiences that I attribute to those albums and feelings, relationships, and it's tough. I would never I don't really listen to my music much, but sometimes I'll go back just to revisit my feelings. And it's funny because I'll listen to a song and I'll say things that most people would never really make crazy sense of, but I know exactly what I'm talking about and I'm reminded of a certain thing. And it's my diary in a weird way. Each song is a diary of sorts.
Makes sense, man. Absolutely. Look, man, you've done some amazing collabs. I mean, the shit you did with Chesky and MC Type recently, I really dug that shit. What is your all-time favorite collab? Who do you love to collab with? Who do you hope to collaborate with sometime in the future?
That's a good question. I have collabed with a lot of people, not on my solo albums, but mixtapes and on other people's albums.
Yeah.
I never strive to collaborate with anybody. Like it's not a draw for me, but I obviously wanted to do a project or song with Chuck D. So I got to do that. I did record a song with Chuck D that I'm very proud of, and it'll be on my next solo album.
Oh, wow.
Awesome.
But I think Slug and I bounced off each other very well on the few songs we've done together.
I'd love to hear some more of you and Slug.
Embarrassed.
Yeah, I think that might be possible. But outside of that, I would have loved to rap over some LP production.
Nice.
That almost happened for the Healthy Distrust album, but I can't remember. I had up to that point, I'd never paid for a beat. You know, like as a rapper, I'm like, I'm dope. I'm so dope. Everyone should just want to give me a beat. And so his asking price was $3,000,
Holy shit.
which in retrospect is a good deal. It's a good deal. I should have done it, but I was too much of a arrogant MC. I was like, no way, I'm not paying that much money for a fucking beat.
His beats go fucking hard, man. And I know
even though I was a huge fan of his stuff, I don't know why I just because I was not accustomed to it back then, and also because I felt like we were contemporaries, and why would he charge me that much for production?
Should be helping each other.
Yeah, but that was just a weird way of me thinking back then.
Speaking of recording, like what was the most unexpected or bizarre thing that happened during a recording session?
There's not too much of that, but
no one ever like walked out or you had a beef with or just didn't work out. They showed up, weren't doing what you
there was. I mean, it was instant when we were doing the nonprofit stuff. Like Joey would freak out on people, tell them to get out of the studio. I know. Yeah,
That's why you went and did a solo thing.
That's why I like to record by myself. I record in my home studio now, which is much healthier and easier. But there was funny, like this one. I've spoken about him before, but a guy named Chris Warren was my audio engineer for a lot of the early albums. And he's incredible. He's so talented at what he does. And he's a little awkward, as we all are, but I wanted to see if I could get some audio outtakes from him on the album. So I snuck a tape recorder into the studio in the spot where he is sitting while I'm recording, just to see if he had any reactions to me, like, oh, Jesus Christ, something just something. And then when I came out of the recording booth, I'm looking to see where the tape recorder is, and it's gone. And I'm like, and I look at him, and I thought he was going to be in good spirits about it, like, what are you trying to do? But he was like, what are you trying to do? Like I'm like spying on him or something. I was like, dog,
like you're trying to blackmail him or something.
No, I was just trying to get something I could use on the album from you. That's all, man. But so it felt very awkward, and like I felt like a kid who got in trouble.
Yeah, because that would be funny to put something on there. Like obviously, maybe you'd probably go back to him, but like, hey, do you mind me putting this on there? Just him like dissing you and putting it on your own track would be hilarious.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff I like to do.
Right.
There was another time where he, I knocked down a bottle of water while I was in the recording booth, and then he had a rule: no water in the recording booth. And I just was like, I said, guess what? I'm taking water into the recording booth because I need it all the time. So no. So I defiantly just said, no, I'm taking water into it.
Yeah, I mean, you're a lyricist. Water's your bread and butter. It's always going to be next to you, I assume.
I need it, yes.
All right, man, look, maybe you've answered this before. And I'm a long-time listener, so I've always wondered, what is the deal with Natalie Portman? That
just was an inside joke that got blown up and got way too stupid for me to like justify anymore. It stemmed, I believe it stemmed from this poem that was written as a joke at a national poetry gathering, because I had run out of material and I needed something new. So I wrote something off the cuff where I was acting as a guy who was unaware that it's not cool to stalk underage girls. And namely Natalie Portman. So yeah, it all came from that, and it was a Zalzan thing, right? Like Zalzan is a sexual deviant, but he's also like he's oddly unfamiliar with how sex works, and he has a very childish view of it. But he thinks, he's like, and he also has a very small dick that he brags about because he's not really sure what's what. He's not all there. So anyways, that all meshed together, and it became like Natalie was an obsession of this from this guy's perspective. And she, at a certain point, didn't deserve him, like good luck. You'll never find anyone like me ever. And you're nothing without me. So what are you going to do now?
That is swagger. Damn.
when you boil it all down, it's incredibly childish and dumb, but that was what's supposed to be funny about it.
Yeah, it is. It's some fun lyrics.
So I love your stuff with B Dolan, Epic Beardman, Beardman. Sorry. You guys got anything in the works going on?
No, because after we did Epic Beardmen, we did 2 pretty large tours, put out 2 projects. We both decided this, we got to focus on our solo stuff moving forward. It was fun to do. It was a side project. It was a detour, but obviously it's not as popular as our solo music is. So, dedicating more time to that is financially dumb. And,
right. Because not everybody,
so we're making less money off of it, and we're splitting it 2 ways. Yeah. It just doesn't make any sense.
You guys have great chemistry. You guys sound great together.
Yeah, I mean, we worked together for a very long time.
I love the artwork. This was supposed to be fun. Who's the artist?
B hired whoever that did, and we paid them a good amount. And I don't remember his name, so I apologize to that dude. But I never had interactions with him, so I don't know.
Gotcha.
You can't have 2 beards that good making music together anyway. Like, it just
we kind of canceled each other out in that way.
Exactly.
That's why me and Ryan don't work together anymore.
All right, Greg, what do you got?
So if you weren't like a successful musician or lyricist, what profession do you see yourself in?
I don't know if I could do anything else. I think about it all the time. Sometimes I find myself fantasizing about working in a cubicle and having a very structured lifestyle.
I can't envision that.
And then whenever I experience anything even close to it, I start getting fidgety, and I'm like, "Fuck this! No way." I would have been a karate instructor or martial arts instructor. That's what I was doing before the college stuff. And I was eyeing like being a fighter. That was something I had great interest in. We were doing mixed martial arts very early, before even the UFC came about. And then when the UFC popped off, I was like, oh, there's a path. There's a way. There's a career here.
Did you actually try to pursue it?
Well, I did. We did a lot of sparring and fighting in my school, but I was going to college. And I told my instructor, because at first I was like, maybe it should be kickboxing. And I told him, like, I want to do this. Like, I'm a good fighter. I won this stupid tournaments. Like, I won as a 16-year-old. I entered the adult black belt competition and won that.
Nice.
And I was very confident that I could do well. But at the same time, I had school to go to, and it kind of took me away from the martial arts school. And I'll be honest, once I discovered spoken word poetry, that took over the obsession I had for martial arts. And I knew I couldn't pursue both and do school and try to do music.
You made the right choice. You got a longer career with this, I think.
Yeah. But my sensei is still teaching. He's still teaching he's now at a college teaching. So it's crazy that he's still around, because he was very hard on his body as well. Even back then, when I was like 16, 17 years old, he was having like lots of issues from all the martial arts that he had done. But I made the right choice. But I do wish I had something more structured. And I feel like teaching could be a thing that I'd be into, like a university job where
you should start some beef with like Jake Paul and get a fight coordinated.
No. I mean, like, actually, I mean, teaching writing.
No, I know. I'm just playing.
Okay. That would be a sad way to go out, Jake Paul.
Yeah, but you're gonna get paid like millions to just go out there and get hit a few times.
I'll do it. Okay.
All right, you heard it here, folks. We're gonna set that shit up, Sage. Don't you worry.
I'm not saying that last one, or the one with Mike Tyson, was fixed, but
yeah, that was sad.
Yeah,
it really was, man.
was it was sad because he disappointed us.
Yeah, you see him in his training videos. He's going hard, and like, I'm
No,
like,
yeah,
I really wanna hop in the ring with him.
no, that was his big sellout move. His last big sellout move was like, oh man, you had like many generations of people rooting for you.
Right.
What a
Yeah.
letdown.
Yeah, it was us. We were the Gen Xers. You're like, oh, Mike Tyson's got this, and then I was like, he don't got this.
I feel like he had it.
I do
He
too.
sold out.
He held back.
He held
Absolutely,
back for
100% held back.
Gotta get that paycheck. He's getting older, and he
Yeah.
doesn't have many more fights left in him. So
Yeah,
can't blame him.
That had to have been the agreement. It was like, all right, you're gonna get this big bag of money. You cannot hit me in the head, and I win. That's it.
Yeah, right.
Deal.
All right, Sage, other than hip hop, what is the music you're listening to right now?
I I don't listen to music. I don't even listen to hip hop music. I don't listen to any music. I listen to podcasts and I listen to sports talk radio. When I drive, I listen to the radio and I just pray that Africa by Toto comes on.
Great tune.
Yeah. So I've noticed that this is not uncommon for career musicians that they just don't listen to music. Like not all of them, but I thought I was the only one, and I was feeling pretty weird about it. But it's a thing where you get burned out, and when you listen to music, you can't enjoy it for what it is. You're thinking of too much about the music, and it becomes a weird chore. So I find I'm mostly relaxed to having chatter in the background. But I love music. There's stuff that I could put on, and I try to get my son into certain music. But man, yeah, I'm like, I can't say I'm up on anything new.
I was listening to sports talk radio for like 12 years when I was working in Boston, and finally I had to pull the plug. I was like, all right, I had enough. But I was listening to like WEI and the Sports Hub, and
that's all I listen to. That's it. And the only reason I started listening to it is because when they first started out, they were doing rap battles. They had a competition. All the DJs, all the sports talk people would battle each other, rap battle.
Yeah,
and it was funny as hell. And I was like, oh man, I like this. And then I just kept listening, and then I got familiar with all the callers and all the takes and all the accents and just little things like that. I like.
I want to say Toucher and Rich were the ones who started that, if I remember correctly.
Okay, yeah.
I could be wrong, though, but I do remember that when they were rapping against each other. That's pretty funny.
Well, those guys are assholes.
Yeah. Wait a second. But what I do listen to music-wise is all the stuff that I'm helping compile for Strange Famous. So that is a lot of music, and that is me working with a bunch of artists and trying to make sure that we're putting together top quality projects for our label.
Well, that leads into my next question then.
Okay.
What are some artists that you're promoting at Strange Famous Records that us or the listeners should check out?
There's I'd be a bad daddy if I didn't name every single artist on the label, but I'll talk about the ones that are putting out music this year in the order they're putting them out, as far as I know. There's a guy almost nobody knows, but his name is Orpheus, and he's from the UK. He's a producer, and he just put together his second project for us. The first project was an instrumental project, but this one, he has MCs on every song, and he's got, so me, Slug, and Buck 65 are on one song.
Damn.
Cool Keith is on a song.
Damn.
Elda Sensei is on a song. Illogic, Soul, Rob Sonic, me, and Blueprint are on a song.
Ah, fantastic.
This fucking album is so good. His production is so dope. All the MCs are killing it. And I'm scared because he just doesn't have the fan base already for people to understand how dope this is or to check for it when it comes out. So we're going to have to push this one hard. The name of the album is High Artifice, and we're going to get it out in the very beginning of April. And then following that, there's an artist from Canada named Lee Reed. And we're dropping his album on May 1st. Now we've done another album with him, and his vocal style and his content, it's very I don't know how to say it. It's like the way Doom's voice works. It's like there's something very particular about the way this guy's voice works that I
All
love.
right.
And his politics are very far left to the point where he's just a threat. So,
Good.
yeah, I love this cat. I met him when I was touring Canada, and his live show was killer. Him
Yeah.
and a DJ, and I was like, this energy is the best.
Nice.
So, yeah,
Canadian, with all that's going on now, he's got some material to work with.
yes,
For
yeah.
his rhymes.
Yeah, even in Canada, this shit popping off that he's got a lot to address. But one of the bigger projects, or like kind of weird put together project, a posse cut project called Baldwin Brothers, and that is a group called Meter Maids with Jesse the Tree, and Mopes. So Mopes used to go by the name Prolific.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mopes is rapping on it, but he's also producing it. And Mopes is producing a lot of the albums that we put out. So that is going to come out in July. Yeah, July. So they already filmed a documentary in the making of the album.
Oh, very cool.
And again, it's a group name that no one's heard of. So it's like they don't come with a pre-existing fan base, and we're going to have to push hard to make sure people are aware of it and how dope it is. But yeah, Jesse the Tree, he's from Rhode Island. He's really popping off. He's getting a lot of recognition all over the place. And he's working with a lot of different artists, but he's just so naturally charismatic and funny, and he's incredibly skillful. And I'm grateful to really have him in our mix, because having a character like that is like always a good time to have him like in your sphere.
Yeah, I've seen his shit. He's done some stuff up like in Portland and stuff with some people that I'm familiar with. And,
and he's playing New England all the time. He's always got shows around.
And I'll say I absolutely, like late last year, I absolutely fell in love with the Meter Maids. I bump their shit constantly now.
Yeah, I mean, those are the homies. They're kind of the reason. They're one of the big reasons that we gained a lot of steam after COVID, because Swell from the Meter Maids galvanized a bunch of people to really get into the idea that, hey, Strange Famous, we're a crew, man. Like, we can help each other, and everyone's got a particular skill of their own that others don't have, that we can, bounce off of each other. And man, yeah, he just got us inspired to make more music and get going as a crew.
Love that.
Another guy I'm working with, his name is Old Boy Rhymes. He lives in Southeast Asia. He's from Alaska, and he's brand new, but he's old. Like, he never released music, but he's been rapping for decades. So that's why he calls himself Old. Have you seen the movie Old Boy?
Oh yeah.
So this guy, he's he's kind of in a weird type of prison. He doesn't know why, but he's working on his fighting the whole time. And finally, when he's let out, he goes and kicks ass. So that's kind of what Old Boy Rhymes did. He just built up his skills over the years. And then when he finally had a chance to record professionally and release music, he came out swinging hard. So we released his first album last year. It's called The Sane Asylum, and it's got a lot of legendary MCs on it. So this year we're going to release a project called Curly Head that's produced by Ariano, a guy named Ariano. Yeah, he does the singing and the beats.
Yeah.
It's a little different in overall sound from the first project, because Mopes produced the first project. And I'm excited just to see where else he goes. Yeah. And there's more, I'm saying a lot of names and people are going to forget them pretty quickly, but I would say if you just subscribe to the Strange Famous YouTube channel, Strange Famous Records, and check for us on social media, you'll see the announcements. And I promise you, when we drop the project, you're going to like it. You're going to hopefully love it, but you will definitely like it.
Yeah, I think I saw Jesse the Tree on like some of your Instagram videos, I believe.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we've done songs together. We did a video together for his last album, and we'll do a lot more together moving forward for sure.
All right,
Fantastic.
so when is your next solo album coming out? Do you have a name?
No, I don't have a name. I have giving myself I have to have it done by the end of summer so that it can come out in fall.
All right, so not far from now.
I know.
Oh, all right, we won't hold you to it, but we're looking forward to it.
Just as long as it's not George R.R. Martin, you know.
That's really what it's come down to, because it's been 11 years since my last solo album, but I got a lot of material, and I just released the Sick Twist Ending mixtape, and that's available on Bandcamp. Sick Twist Ending is just the last of my Sick of mixtape series.
Sick.
A lot of songs.
The last or the latest?
The last of the Sick of mixtapes.
Not doing any more?
Nah,
Ooh, sick of
those
them
mixtapes have a particular formula that I can't keep doing moving forward, because I like to include old radio recordings of me, and I like to include old live recordings and various things that I kind of scraped the bottom of the barrel to put this one together, and I realized, okay, I used up all the stuff that I have. Everything else moving forward is going to be brand new. Yeah. But a mixtape, I like my mixtapes to sound like mixtapes, like real mixtapes that we used to make for each other back in the day. It's not supposed to be a bunch of songs that you recorded in a studio or just wrapped over other people's beats. I like it to come from various sources. I like for it to have different volumes. I like for it to have different quality sources, sound, overall sound. So to me, that's what the Sick of mixtape stuff was all about, and it's a journey through time every time you check one out.
Yeah, there's a lot of good shit on those. A lot of funny stuff too. Super enjoyed checking that out recently. I've been bumping it at work all week, and I'm sure people are sick of me playing Sage Francis all month. So they're going to be excited to move on from this one, I think.
Yeah,
well, you got some of those new artists to introduce them to.
Yeah, that's right.
Absolutely.
You got to spread the Strange Famous love.
Get that Strange Famous Bandcamp going
every day.
Albums.
All right, look, we're not going to take up too much more of your time, but this is a pretty important question, and if I don't get it off my chest now, I feel like I would have let everybody down, all the little crustomaniacs and Francenites out there. So if you could have any superpower, but could only be used for incredibly dull tasks, what superpower would you choose, and what would be your go-to mundane activity?
Oh, geez. I don't know.
These are the questions people are asking, Sage, all right? This comes from above.
I'd like, part of me wants to say, maybe my skin never gets burned. Yeah, so I don't feel, my skin literally can't be burned or hurt, and then I don't have to wear gloves when I wash the dishes.
I feel like mine would be like I could prepare food in like 5 seconds or something. I would. I spend so much time on like meal prepping and stuff like that. I just want to be like.
That's true. That's a good one. But also, I wouldn't have to use utensils when I cook either. I could just flip like my meat tongs.
Yeah. You'd be a hit at the barbecue.
Yeah.
The amazing Sage Francis will flip the burgers without any.
All right, boys, you have anything else you'd like to ask Mr. Sage before we say goodbye?
I think that was it for me.
Good, man. We've got a lot of questions. Appreciate you answering well. I was just happy to talk to you and have you on the show.
Yeah, awesome. Brother, it's a good hang. Thank you for having me.
Hell yeah.
Huge fans. We're looking forward to your solo album coming out, and we're going to check out all your new releases coming out on Strange Famous Records.
Yeah. All right. Well, there's a lot on the way, so buckle up, kid.
Now, obviously, we're repping the You Run podcast. We're going to let you know that you're all beautiful, beautiful people, and Sage, especially you. Yep. So beautiful. I can just picture you in those rubber gloves doing dishes now. That's all I'm going to think about for the rest of the day. We just like to say thank you to each and every one of you. Obviously, big ups to you, Sage. And look, we always end every show by saying, in Crust, we trust. So, Sage, do you think you could just take us out with "In Crust We Trust"?
What up, party people? This is Sage Francis from Strange Famous Records. I just want to say, in Crust we trust.
Holy shit!
I think I got a tear coming.
Same.
That was amazing. Thank you, man.
All right, y'all. I'm out of here.
This ends our podcast.
But as for toppings, I think something that I've loved for a long time is black olives with banana peppers. If you hated it, you'd make yourself love it somehow.